If you're watching along as I release these boss guide videos, you're going to know what I'm about to say, which is that I believe that the single greatest indicator of run success is success against the lair bosses. And to have a high success rate against the lair bosses, you absolutely need to understand how they work. What mechanics are you facing? What works well against them? What are they going to do to you? And so that's what we're going to cover today for the Leviathan. Because they must be made to see that their monstrous god is mortal, and this guide is going to help you do exactly that. So first, in terms of stats, the Leviathan has 155 HP, making them the second most tanky lair boss. They have a speed of 5, and they have 1 action per turn. We'll talk more about that, but this is the most ridiculous claim of the Leviathan, as the Leviathan does so much for only having that single action. The only other thing to talk about are its resists. Of note, there isn't a lot going on here except that it is hard to land a debuff on the Leviathan with 40 resist, and fire is your best dot source, but even fire is relatively well resisted. So let's talk about the Leviathan setup. When you initially enter into the Leviathan fight, you are going to be presented with a 2-size enemy, the Leviathan, at the front of the situation. And at the end of that first turn, the Leviathan will summon a hand that is in front of it. And we'll talk more about the hand and the hand mechanics in the future, but generally speaking, the way to think about the fight is there is a big Leviathan in the back and its hand is in the front. And so you need to be targeting damage at the back 2 ranks. So with that being said, let's talk about the move set. So the first move is unsurprisingly a free action. If the hand is not present, at the beginning of the turn, the Leviathan will do a Breath of the Sea. It hits all of your heroes, applies blind, vulnerable, 1 stress, ignores dodge, and ignores blind on the Leviathan. Basically, what this means, for lack of a better descriptor, is that you are sometimes going to be dealing with blind, and there is absolutely nothing that you can do about it. This ability is frustrating, to say the least, and compounding with a lot of other things, it makes the fight very unpredictable. The next ability is an ability that actually costs an action, shocking, called Eyes of the Storm. So Eyes of the Storm has a couple of features to it. So first of all, it can target any rank. It does 3 to 7 damage. It has a 1-turn cooldown, and if the hand is not present, it targets 2 heroes. So this is a theme that you're going to see. When the hand is gone, bad things happen. When the hand is present, the hand does bad things. But the thing about Eyes of the Storm is that it is going to apply that circular orange debuff that is Call of the Deep. And Call of the Deep is integral to a lot of the facets of this particular fight. And Eye of the Storm is the primary way that it is applied. If the hand is present, only 1 hero gets Call of the Deep. If the hand is not present, 2 will end up getting Call of the Deep. The next ability is Tidal Surge, which is a target everyone, also on a cooldown of 1. And it will add Barnacles and Algae Bloom to potentially all of your heroes. The chance for disease is relatively low. It adds 1 stress, and it does 3 to 7 damage. This is another frustrating ability, but this one is just an AoE that you're going to have to eat and heal through and do your best to take it on the chin. And that actually is it for the Leviathan's moveset. The Leviathan is essentially going to alternate between Eyes of the Storm and Tidal Surge each turn with its 1 action. But it has yet another free action that we haven't talked about here, but that is that at the end of the turn, it is going to summon the hand. And the hand has 2 actions itself and 24 hit points. You see the hand in the upper right-hand corner there. So the hand is a bit of a jerk, to be very clear. The hand will first and foremost, with its first action, perform an undertow. And if you played Darkest Dungeon 1, undertow is the equivalent of the Hag Witch's Cauldron. It is going to kidnap one of your heroes and shift all of the heroes behind them forward one. And this has two main effects. One, it removes action points from one of your heroes. One of your heroes will no longer be able to act or will lose their turn. And then two, it also mispositions the remaining heroes in your party, right? So if you had a Jester in rank 2, now your Jester is potentially in rank 1. The undertow only targets heroes with Call of the Deep also. So that first action, that first Eye of the Storm that the Leviathan does is essentially going to determine who's going to potentially get kidnapped. And we'll talk more about undertow in the future, but undertow is checked against move resist. If you fail the move resist check, you get kidnapped. Each turn that a hero is kidnapped, they will gain 2 stress and they will lose 4% of their total HP. The other thing that the hand does after it is done kidnapping your heroes, because as if that wasn't enough, is the hand will then start battering any remaining heroes that have Call of the Deep. And batter does 6 to 8 damage and 1 to 2 stress, with that second stress being a 66% chance. So when all is said and done, the hand is pumping out as much as 4 stress per turn. It is potentially adding 2 more stress to a hero that it has kidnapped, and the Leviathan is potentially AoEing you as much as twice in a given round. So there is a lot of stuff going on with this particular fight, to say the least. So let's talk about the mechanics. Right. The first thing to note is that undertow is hugely problematic. The fact that one of your heroes is disappearing is a problem. The only way that you get them back is by killing the hand after they have been abducted. So it is worth bearing that in mind. The good news is that the hand has relatively low HP. So getting it down is sometimes only a point blank shot away, or various other hard hitting effects. The next thing is, as I already mentioned, that the hand is a stress machine. It's going to be putting out as much as 4 stress per turn just from batters. It is very difficult to keep your stress down in this particular fight, and having someone that can handle stress is basically a must from my perspective with the Leviathan. Most of these stress attacks that we were talking about are nigh unavoidable. So you just have to kind of prepare for that. Now, the next thing to talk about in terms of the mechanics is the hand's targeting. We already talked a little bit about Call of the Deep, but just to be extremely clear, what is going to happen at the beginning of any given fight with the Leviathan is 2 of your heroes are going to receive Call of the Deep, and then one of them is going to attempt to be abducted with undertow, and then failing that, the hand is going to start battering your heroes with Call of the Deep. So you at least know where those attacks are going. The issue is that you cannot taunt the actual attack batter. So batter will ignore taunt. It will target any hero that has Call of the Deep. The one kind of minor caveat to that is you can use taunt to guarantee that Call of the Deep will land on your tank. So you can essentially, if you are fast enough and get your tanks taunt up before Eye of the Storm fires off, you will get Call of the Deep on your tank, but you will also get it on one other hero because it targets 2. So taunt is really not a mechanic that you can use too terribly effectively here, but it is worth understanding how it works. And then last, but certainly not least, is just you have to talk about the preponderance of actions. Between a free action to summon the hand, a free Breath of the Sea, 2 batters potentially, or a batter and an undertow, you're looking at like maybe 5 actions from the Leviathan for what is reported as a single action each turn. So the Leviathan is kind of a jerk. That is to put it mildly. enjoy fighting the Leviathan the least of any of the bosses, and given its tankiness at 155 HP, it is a step up in difficulty from all of the other lair bosses that we've talked about. So with all that said and done, let's flip the card over and talk about my 10,000 foot view summary of the Leviathan. What I say here is that this is a high stress, moderate damage fight. The fight is mostly a DPS check on ranks 3 and 4, made harder by blinds ruining damage opportunities. And I think that's pretty on the nose. There is not that much counterplay against the Leviathan. You are basically just trying to burn it down before it burns you down, and it's putting out a surprising amount of damage, especially from batter and its AoEs, coupled with the fact that it is putting out a huge amount of stress. So let's go through the list here and just talk about some of the facets. I think Taunt has marginal usefulness here. It is not super useful, so I put it like a 4.5 out of 10. Healing is not the most important facet of this fight. 2 out of 10 is perhaps a little generous, but fundamentally what I'm trying to say here is that the thing that is going to kill you faster is probably the stress at 8.5. The stress is going to stack up very quickly. You're going to have meltdowns, and then you're going to need that healing really badly. Dot cure, there is a little bit of a dot. Barnacles, when your heroes move, is potentially going to apply a small bleed, which can make Death's Door a little more dangerous to hang out on. But dot curing is not something that I think too hard about when going into this fight. The tokens are definitely impactful, especially the blind token I think is particularly frustrating. And overall, I give the lethality of this particular fight a 9 out of 10. As far as lair bosses go, the Leviathan is in my eyes unparalleled. All of the other lair bosses, I will take a risk and go to first region if I think I have the right combat items or things are going particularly well. The Leviathan is just a no-go. I need so much preparation to be able to take it out. So with that being said, let's talk about my strategy for the Leviathan. It's summed up pretty well in this first point. The rest is kind of not that important, but it is dealing with undertow, and that is move resist or bust. So as we mentioned, move resist prevents you from being undertowed. Specifically, the breakpoint there is 100 move resist is required to guarantee that undertow will not affect you. Getting that on the table for both of your front two heroes is critically important. And I say both of your front two heroes because of the way Eye of the Storm is applied. Technically, either of them can be undertowed. So you really need to get your front rank ready to take those Call of the Deeps and also not get swallowed up by the hand. Editor Alden here. Normally I just put some text up on the screen to clarify something that I thought was ambiguous in the video, but this one is particularly important, so I thought I would add some audio to go with the video. We just talked about move resistance and the importance of move resist in the Leviathan fight. It is paramount, but it is important to note that immobilized tokens do not equal move resist. This is a mistake that I have made several times. I assumed that if I was immobilized, I could not be moved, which meant that I could not be abducted, but this is not the case. If you are immobilized, let's say your Hellion uses toe-to-toe, your Hellion can still be abducted if they do not pass the move resist check. This is particularly important when it comes to the General's Trophy, which immobilizes all of your heroes permanently. You can have your rank 2 hero abducted via undertow, and then when you kill the hand, they will be returned not to where they were before, but instead to rank 1. This has caused me to have heroes end up in really weird places where they had no actions they could take, and is a really bad time. So I wanted to include this clarification to make sure that everyone was aware. Immobilized does not protect you from undertow. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. Things that you can do to help with that, get a head start on that, is the Sergeant Man-at-Arms, the Poet Leper, and the Chaplain Vestal are all great pairings for planning to go Leviathan hunting because of their innate additional move resist. The next decision point that you have is whether you kill the hand or not. I am of two minds about this. I generally think that it is a mistake to over-focus on killing the hand because it just keeps coming back. You can't get rid of it for that long. And as we discussed before, the Leviathan is more painful to deal with and is dishing out more damage when the hand is gone. So you're not really neutralizing Leviathan by killing the hand necessarily, you're just shifting where the pain is coming from. So what I really like to do is set up some dots on the hand that are going to kill it relatively quickly, and then ideally those will sync up in a way that prevents the Leviathan from resummoning it for a little bit longer, while also kind of heading it off at the pass. So generally, I really like abilities that allow me to put some dots while also hitting the back rank. So things that hit, say, rank 2 and 3 are particularly nice. The next observation is just that stress will be a problem. We talked about this, but there is stress coming from so many different components of this fight that you absolutely need to have an answer for that stress, and that answer needs to also not be cannibalizing actions that you need to take. So a good example of that is your Jester is going to be critical for putting out damage potentially with either Slice Off or Harvest, and then also is going to need to be doing Inspiring Tune. So you need to be mindful of those types of things because you're going to be losing actions to taking care of stress. The next big observation is that the presence of blinds, and we've talked about this many times in these guides, but the presence of blinds radically increases the variance of this fight. If you end up getting some bad RNG and you get a ton of blinds on your team during that initial Breath of the Sea, your first turn can be nearly wasted. You can miss all of your attacks, and that can really set you off on the wrong foot. Milk-soaked linen doesn't end up in my things that I prep by getting, but there is a strong argument to be made for including it in the list because of the ability to remove blind, which in turn can really help you get the right momentum and get cracking appropriately. The final kind of like tagline bottom thing here in the strategy is do not go into the Leviathan unprepared. It will not end well. If you do not have the move resist, this fight is going to be a mess, and you are going to come away from it either having lost a hero or in grievous pain. So let's talk about some stars of the Leviathan fight from my perspective. Probably my favorite hero for the Leviathan fight is the Highwayman, because I think that point blank shot is so great at one-shotting the hand and also doing big damage to the Leviathan. You have a nice, fast, maybe snappy swigged Highwayman who during that first turn can take 30 damage off of the Leviathan, take a 20% chunk out of their HP. That is fantastic for you getting going with the fight. And I also like the Highwayman because I think Take Aim is particularly nice for removing that blind if you end up picking one up. Next hero that I think is worth talking about is the Jester. Inspiring Tune and Harvest are both great for this fight. Harvest is great because it puts some chip damage on the hand, sets up a dot on the hand, and puts some damage on the Leviathan, which I really like. Also worth mentioning that Pistol Shot on the Highwayman is fantastic as well. The Leper and the Man-at-Arms both end up getting shoutouts here because I think that they are both easy to hit that movement cap and also, provide you a little bit of that taunt mechanic and can also dish out a bit of damage when the Leviathan is in the right place. And then we also mentioned the Chaplain Bonk Vestal. In terms of rank effects, you want to be doing damage to rank 1 and rank 5 primarily, and you're going to be dealing with a lot of stress. And then kind of last but not least, on the prep side of things, ceremonial war drums or ceremonial drums, I forget which the name is, are your best friend. They are a 40% movement resist in item. Very, very useful, very important. Any of the items that will accelerate the fight, I'm thinking the Molotov cocktail or the Ichor bomb, are quite useful because they can accelerate the fight a great deal, and you can selectively roll them out when you're not suffering from blind. Anchoring Charm and Stake and Spuds are both worth mentioning because of the move resist that they provide. Anchoring Charm in particular is a big thing that you can put on just prior to the fight. You don't have to have it on all the time, and it can make a big difference. And then smoke bombs have some marginal value for helping out, although many of the Leviathan's attacks are not affected by blind. Reasons to do the Leviathan. The short answer is if you're going for win streaks, very little. This is a very difficult fight and does not provide that much value. The things that I like most, though, the new Leviathan trophy, which allows all combat items to stack by 2 more, is very interesting, and I think might become sleeper very valuable as the game gets more difficult. If the final boss is anything like the Heart of Darkness from the first Darkest Dungeon, there is an argument to be made for the fact that being able to stack Healing Salve to 4 could be wildly beneficial, especially if it lets you heal, unlike some other bosses. Carved Bodkin is interesting. I think it plays really well with the Ravager Hellion. It gives you an extra action sometimes when you take bleed damage, which I think can be pretty useful, and the Hellion has the capacity to self-bleed. And then the Sodden Sweater is an ironic but good item. Yeah, I say ironic because it is fantastic for increasing your move resist and also your bleed resist, which are 2 things that you want to have for this fight. And sadly, you can only get it from this fight. So go figure. But anyways, that is the Leviathan in a nutshell. This is a tough fight. It's good for bragging rights. It's good for occasionally if you're looking for a team that's going to be going heavy into bleed. The Shroud is where you get those things. Sometimes you just need a trophy, and the Leviathan is the only place that you can get it. But the Leviathan is last on my list of bosses to do, and that's why I decided to save it for last, because I had already done 1 guide for it. But with all that being said, if you watch at the end of this video, I will include a really good outcome against the Leviathan, so that you can see what it looks like when everything is firing on all cylinders. You have the move resist, you have the combat items, you have a hero party that is good at taking out the Leviathan, what that looks like. But if this video is useful, if you like these infographics and find them helpful, please toss me a like and toss me a subscription. After this video, I'm going to be starting on the confession bosses, doing guides for each of them. So those will be coming up in short order, and if you want to see them, hit that subscribe button so you get notified when they come out. But for now, that's it for me. Enjoy watching the Leviathan get a walloping. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Man, Early Experiments is great, but it is the wrong one for sure. Carved Bodkin could be interesting. We got the Lashing Tides, which is still good, but it's not our bleed dream. All right, we haven't done the Leviathan in a while.
They must be made to see that their monstrous god is mortal.
The blind here stinks. Okay. So start. Not cool. Uncool game. He's going to be taking a lot of stress. I don't want it to get out of control too quickly, because the hand is going to come out. The hand now respects taunt, as does Eye of the Storm. Okay. Please resist. Thank you.
Well done.
That was a big freaking hit. Dang. And then I do this just to get the bleed going, so that if someone does get taken, we have an answer for it. The next batter may go back here. Yeah. So batter always follows these Call of the Deep icons. Another resist means that we are good to go, I think.
Stupendous.
Better to go for the guaranteed dot damage, I feel like. Or the double resist, one of the two. Taking an extra tidal surge there is super annoying. I actually prefer the batter there. Although I don't like that because the next undertow now could be a little dangerous. Let's do... Yeah, we don't have a way to get the kill, so we do this. Because undertow, I believe, can only hit the front ranks. Okay. This is why I don't like doing the Leviathan. Yeah. Yep. Alright, let's just finish it. Come back, Dismas. But see, the person who comes out always is at the front, even if you have the General's Trophy. So, that can really foul things up quite badly. I don't think what we just got there was particularly useful or valuable, but... Okay. What do we have here? If HP below 20%, 25% damage, punish, steals positive token, less bleed resist. I kind of like that. Carved Bodkin is fun. All right, let's do a Leviathan. Hopefully. Now the Leviathan has been
They must be made to see that their
155
monstrous
HP.
God is mortal.
Yeah, so we used the crit token there. We still didn't land it? Are you joking me?
Stumbling
Game.
and stupefied.
Oh, and we get the stun token from that. All right. The game is the game knows how to hurt us apparently. And it is planning to do its worst. Oh. 30s and I'm not landing them.
Excellent work.
All right. Oh my word. Can I land anything here? Wow. Okay. Well, let's hope that this doesn't happen. Oh wait, we do have the thing that removes stun. We should have thought about using that probably. Resist, please. Thank you. Batter does less stress damage, so that's feeling good. Oh, we don't have... Oh, the condition is blocked for that. Got it. All right. We had a pretty bad initial starting point here. No crit token feels really bad. We need some healing here for sure. I'm a little concerned about our Hellion. Okay, yeah, the batter could go back there. Okay, good dodge. Let's see, you do have Adrenaline Rush. I think we probably just Adrenaline Rush to get you good, and we do that. Gets rid of Winded as well. Okay, it was bound to happen eventually. Come back, please. I hate that I'm doing that there, but...
The fiend's strength dwindles. Hold fast, for who knows what lurks in the beyond.
Okay. A crit for 2. You love to see it. Okay, that's a bad Eye of the Storm target for sure.
Malaise, measured and steady.
%, Death Store. Tempting to just get you up to healthy, but you're 33. Let's just get rid of them. Epic Cultist Heals. All right, achievement unlocked. Catch and Decease.
Down these nightmares.
Leviathan has been taken
Place
care
the
of.
trail to your redemption.